graphic, and now we're being recorded, so now it's even more serious. So this is an overview of the graphic design program. We'll see, hopefully we'll get you most of your questions answered without actually being able to do a chat. One of the things I want to remind you of, and I'll get to it in a minute, is the fact that we have an open house, which we can get into much more detail, and it's specific to this. It's also typically for that, we bring other faculty and we bring both students and alumni to that as well, so we can get much more in depth than what this is going to be today. I also know that you guys still have some time, so I want to get this out there on your radar. So if you do want to do this, you can start thinking seriously about making a good application. One of the things with the design program at Seattle Central is we're only at Seattle Central. There's not one at North and there's not one at South. And it's very competitive to get into the program. Typically we take about half the people that apply. But the thing that's important is you can apply more than once. So if you submit a portfolio in the fall and you're not accepted, you can resubmit that portfolio in the winter. We're what's considered a lockstep program, so we only start in the fall. So basically you'd have 4 chances to get accepted in any given year if you applied every quarter. So that's important. There's also not sure what that was about. Can you guys actually, let's do a test here. Can you guys turn your mics on? Do they actually work or not? I was told they weren't. They do work.
Pretty sure.
Awesome. All right. So you can ask me questions. Please ask me questions. I would much rather interact with people than black spaces and just squares with names in them. Plus, it's more fun for me to kind of get to know you a little bit. So the program's competitive, but don't let it scare you. All right. You get more than one shot. And if you get in and you do this, it will be well worth it. I had a little chuckle to myself when they were talking about the renowned program, but for better or for worse, we kind of are. And I think the best thing for that is if you're serious about doing this, I would encourage you to just call any design firm in town pretty much and ask them what they thought about our program, and they'll give you their opinion, and I don't have to give you just my opinion because I'm a little bit biased. So here's some interesting fast facts. The program was actually established in 1949, which was crazy when I found that out. It was established after World War II to allow returning vets to find work and help build an economy. It was called the Advertising Art Program then. It was part of the Broadway Edison Technical School, and you'll love this, and I'm trying to work on it for you guys to try to get the tuition back to $2 per quarter. That's what it was in 1946. In 1966, Edison Technical became part of Seattle's community colleges, and then in 2007, we actually formed the Seattle Central Creative Academy. There's a info session after this one. That's Bliss, one of my colleagues who does the visual media program. If you're interested in this type of stuff, I'd suggest that you do that as well. They have different classes. We do collaborate a lot though between the two programs. And there's a lot of crossover. We do a class first year that's all of the first year students in design and all the first year students in visual media, and we're together in a class for all day on Friday, which goes for a whole year. Our space is crazy. It's the entire 5th floor of the Seattle campus with views from one direction of downtown and the Olympic Mountains and the Sound. Another, if you look south, we've got a great view of Mount Rainier. And if you look east, we've got Cal Anderson Park right across the street. Although unfortunately that view is quickly being taken away by condos that are being built across the street. But we got a great spot. The other thing that I think is really important about this career, if you guys can think about doing this and you do this, we're in a great place in Seattle right now. Seattle's quickly becoming, there's actually lots of businesses that are moving from San Francisco to Seattle because crazy, we're actually cheaper than there. At least for now we are. But that means there's lots of work here. So you'll be able to find a job if you do this. A couple other just little facts here. 60% of students who came into the program were making less than $35,000 a year when they came in. And 70% of those students were making over $55,000 in their first job. Depending on which specific fields and interests that you have, the salaries in this profession can get pretty crazy pretty fast. I've got a slide later that I'll share with you in terms of some info research I did on Saturday. You're also highly sought after. Businesses in Seattle know about our program, and they want to hire you because they know that you'll have a good work ethic, and they know that you know how to do the work and not just talk about it. 30% of students in the last 3 years, in the most recent polls I've done, had a full-time job within a month of graduation. Did some industry surveys, and 70% of the companies responded that they see nothing but demand going up over the next 5 years. One of the things I think we do really well in the design program and the visual media program is we have great alumni connections. And Seattle's a big city, but it's not that big. And we have people at all kinds of places in Seattle. So the odds are no matter where you go to work, there's going to be an alumni from Seattle Central that's working there as well, which is super helpful. And you got somebody kind of on the inside already there for you. They also, quite often when they're looking for people to work, they'll send an email to the faculty, and we then can share that with people. And sometimes it circumvents the entire process, and you just get in your foot in the door because there's a grad who works there and they want to get somebody hired and they want to get to work. So that's a really great bonus as well. And that's done nothing but get stronger. I've now been at Central for almost 30 years, which is crazy. But in that time, I did the math the other day, and I think I've had 1,200 students, 80% of whom are still working in design. So you now have senior management people who are looking to hire people who still are connected with us at Seattle Central. So that's a major bonus. Real briefly on the curriculum, and then I'll promise these won't be so boring. I'll jump over to the website and we can actually see some examples of work. But this is the important stuff. You'll have 30 courses over 2 years, and you're gonna get a lot of stuff thrown at you. It's gonna be a grind for 2 years, but it'll be worth it. It's 20 credits a quarter. Typical full-time load is 15. We have what's considered a lockstep program, so we only start in the fall. So we take applications all year long. We take 2 cohorts, so we have 24 students per section, roughly 50 first-year students and 50 second-year students. It's like going to work is the easiest way I think to describe it. Classes meet from 9 to 2. And on Friday in the first year, the new media class that I was telling you about, that's both visual media and graphic design, that class goes from 9 to 3. It's an 11-week quarter, and we don't do anything in the summer. So you get summers off. A lot of time, depending on what your background is, between first and second year is a great time to do your internship, which there is an internship requirement. Oftentimes you don't really quite have the skill sets yet to be real helpful to somebody in a working situation. And you can also wait and do your internship after you finish both years of the curriculum. I think sometimes that's a positive strategy to kind of get your foot in the door somewhere that might turn into a full-time job. But we got lots of time to talk about all that. A 5-hour class, you think, oh my God, that's forever. It flies by. I think part of the reason it flies by is because typically we're all having fun and we're working hard. It's a mix of lecture, some demonstrations, critiques, which we do a lot of, where you're getting feedback from both the faculty and fellow students. Sometimes we bring people in from outdoors, outside. A lot of alumni come back and give feedback. If you've got thin skin, this might not be the career for you. You will be told no, you will be told to do things over, and you will be, explain why the faculty and alumni think that it should be done differently. This isn't fine art. We're trying to solve problems visually. So there is an end game. It's not what you like. It's not what you think looks cool. It's about solving the problem so that it can be successful. So keep that in mind too if you're thinking about doing this as a career. The client has the final say, and your job is to convince them what's the best solution. It's a 2-year program. You get an Associate of Applied Science degree. We do have one thing that's unique with us. It's probably not totally unique, but it is unique in the fact that we have an articulation agreement with Western Washington and Evergreen, where our program actually kind of counts as your junior and senior year. And then you go there and you do your foundation courses like English, humanities, math. So that's kind of an interesting twist on the whole thing. As just an option. Not a ton of people do that because, again, our typical demographic for students is 28 years old. 2/3 of them have a degree in something else already. And they're coming back to get a new skill set to make a career change and find a different job. This is the floor I was telling you about. This is the 5th floor of the Broadway building, Broadway and Pine. The graphic design program has these are the 2 first-year classrooms down here. These are the 2 second-year classrooms over here. You walk across the critique area, which is where we sit and give feedback. This is a really great deck for a day like today where you can get outside and get a little fresh air and not have to go all the way downstairs. We have an incredibly huge photo studio. It's one of the largest in the state. Which is for both the visual media students and the graphic design students. This can be divided up into 8 different bays, so you can have 8 different shoots going on at any given time. This is also a huge benefit to you guys. There will be no more going to UPS or wherever you used to go, FedEx, to make photocopies and to print stuff and whatever. You have everything that you need right here in this room. Up to 44 inches wide, 4-color prints on an Epson, which is continuous. I think a sheet is 100 feet long, so you can go 44 inches by 100 feet long, our largest printer. There's also digital color laser printers as well as digital color inkjet printers. We have a laser cutter, which is crazy fun. It's a $35,000 piece of equipment. Which if you can figure out in terms of your environmental graphics class or your packaging, that's a great place that comes into play. We also have 3 different 3D printers. So if you wanted to actually build things and get into Blender and doing some of that stuff, it's pretty fun. So we have a great space that's all ours. You take the elevator up in the morning and then you leave for lunch probably, and then come back and spend when we're in the building. Most of the time people are there till 10 o'clock. Here's the crazy slide. On Saturday, I did a quick look of average salaries in Seattle. And you can see that the low end is $55,000 a year, and a product designer averages $116,000 a year. And there's people both above and below on those. And this is also just kind of I just grabbed some various different pieces of what's part of our curriculum. So you can make good money doing this, but it's hard work. There's lots of deadlines, there's lots of communication issues, but there's also a lot of really great companies in Seattle that you guys can go to work for. Here's a list from just the last 3 years of places that people are working. Some of these are really tiny little places, and then some of the bigger ones I've highlighted by making them bold so you can see. But there's a ton of work in Seattle and it's not going to go away. So it's a good time to be here if this is something that you want to do. So let's see if I can jump us over to our website. And if not, I might have to change my screen share. I will. Okay, so this is the graphic design website. Well, actually, it's not the graphic design website. It's the Creative Academy website. So visual media stuff's here as well. I think the thing that's important, a couple of major things here is one, Seattle Central CreativeAcademy.com is the website. There's a ton of information here. I'm just going to skim over it, but definitely come back to this and look at it. And do spend some time kind of going through it and making sure that you understand all the particulars. That's the critique area I was talking about right there. This is the way we kind of look at work and give feedback. That's Jill, the instructor, and a group of students. This is the classroom that is kind of, I mean, it's set up as more of a work environment. So we have lots of work on the wall. We have lots of stuff all over the place, and we talk about it a lot. And it's very small in terms of cohorts and feel. Everybody gets to know everybody. You're with 40 students for 2 years, and you get to be close friends, which is great. So I want to go over a couple of things here in terms of like, this is just general info. Like I was saying earlier, I mean, we have a space that's unparalleled by anybody. I think somebody said something about the best space in Washington. It's actually probably the best space from Vancouver all the way down to San Francisco. There's nothing like this in Oregon, and there's nothing like it in Seattle. So it's pretty special. Had lots of students from the UW and Western Washington and other places, when they do come by because they know somebody who's graduating or whatever, are like, holy shit, you guys have a great space and you got lots of really cool toys. So we try to stay current, and to do so, you got to spend money and you got to buy the new toys. So we have virtual reality stuff, and we have lots of room, and we have always things that are developing and changing. If you're in the visual media program, you know, there's a drone that you can check out and use. There's lots of equipment that you guys have access to all kinds of equipment on a daily basis that you can check out. And basically the rule is you can check it out, take it home for the night, use it, bring it back the next day. And that includes all kinds of crazy video camera recording stuff, as well as drawing tablets. We have a drone. We've got the laser cutter. You're not going to be hurting for any tools that you want. You're going to be hurting for creativity to figure out how to use those tools. But here's a breakdown. If you wanted to come back, there's a picture of me as a little kid, and the faculty, short little bios about who we are and what we've done. All of us have worked professionally before becoming teachers, which I think is kind of the way professional technical stuff is. You need to actually spend some time learning what the profession is, and how it works before you can teach it to somebody. Different than things that are more academic, where you could actually learn a lot of it just from reading a book and spending some time doing that. So again, important piece here, the website, as well as here's my contact information right here, Marc Salverda at seattlecolleges.edu. If you have questions, or you want to follow up, or it gets into the next year and you're starting to put your portfolio together, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I started as a part-time person teaching an evening Photoshop class, and I'm still here almost 30 years later. So I love my job, and I want to help you guys be successful. So don't hesitate, honestly, reach out, say you were at this thing and you got some questions, and I'll get back to you. If it's summertime, might not be that same day, but it will be within a couple of days. So if we go here to the graphic design program, you can now look at, there's various things here. I want to go real briefly. We'll take a quick look at the courses. And like I was saying earlier, it's lockstep. So, I mean, you don't have a choice in terms of what classes you take, which quarter you take them. It's all laid out, and that's it. So that's a shot of the production lab. Here's the printers over here on the wall. That's a huge cutter there. There's 3D printers over here. This photo was taken before we got laser cutter a couple of years ago. So, but take a look at the classes. I'm not going to read through all these or go through it, but read through this to make sure that it's stuff that you're interested in, it's stuff that you want to do. Obviously, things you can do now to prepare are, the more you know Adobe software. All the computers on the 5th floor are Macintosh. If you have a laptop or a computer at home, or both, ideally, they don't have to be a Macintosh. You can work on a PC, but the ones at school are all Macintosh. You have 5 classes a week, so one every day. They meet once a week. It's an 11-week quarter, And like I said earlier, we don't have any summer classes. So it's a grind. And it's worth it if you can get through it, but you also need to make sure that you're really committed to doing this or it won't go well. You got 5 hours of class and you've got another 3 to 5 hours of homework for each of those classes. So school alone is more than a full-time job. And if you have to work like I did when I went to college, it's going to add a whole nother element to it. So definitely, if you've got Seattle Promise, that's great. Still fill out your FAFSA form for financial aid. So if there is additional aid you can get it. I mean, I know that it can help with it can help with equipment that you need for home in terms of like a laptop and software and that kind of stuff, depending on what type of aid you have. So it's better to have the options than not. So do fill out your FAFSA form. So this is just broken out by quarter. You can see there's 5 classes for the first quarter. You get a history class right up front. You do a series of 3 production classes, which are the 3 major Adobe softwares. So Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop. You get a quarter of each of those first quarter. If you know more than that when you start, I mean, if you do know those when you start, that's helpful. If you don't know them at all, it's going to be a steep learn curve, but it's doable. It just means you have to spend more time making stuff because it just takes you longer. So not the end of the world there. So courses are here. Take a look through those. The one that is kind of unique, in your second year, you have a course each quarter that's called Special Projects, where basically it's a self-directed course. Let's say that you really wanted to get into virtual reality. We own some equipment, and we have alumni that work in that space. None of the faculty currently have experience in that, minus a little bit. But it's something that you can explore and dive into, and you're given space and opportunity to use that equipment and do some projects. So this is the closest thing that we have to an elective, but it's very self-directed, but it is an option. So that's important. The apply piece, I want to go through this real quickly too. Like I was saying, it is competitive. You're going to have to submit a portfolio. And that's one of the things that really, matters in terms of who we accept and who we take and what skills you can show us and how creatively you can come across in actual design and fine art work. So basically you need to apply to the college first. Once you're accepted into the college, you get an ID number, and that's what's important. You then need to meet with a counselor and make sure that you have the academic requirements that are required. I mean, you need to be eligible for English 101 and you have to have math, pre-algebra only. If you've taken classes in the last 3 years, I believe it is, you guys are coming straight from high school, so never mind that. I don't need that part. You need to hook up with an advisor. You guys, I think, have a different set of advisors that are specific to you. They set you up with a folder with the office, which basically gets you into our system. There's a portfolio review. This is the big piece right here. I would suggest that you download this guidelines, which gives you the specifics for the actual portfolio. Currently, there's an exercise on there that you need to do a composition with circles, squares, and triangles. And that's exactly what it is. It's a creativity exercise. So, I mean, knock yourself out and have fun, but make sure those things are on the page. There's also a link to build your entrance portfolio that has lots of links to examples and ideas to kind of help with that. We take portfolios every quarter. So there are specific times that they're due. You can submit it anytime during this time frame, and obviously I have to update this and add dates for next year. So the window is a week long. You can upload your portfolio to our website. We then have 2 weeks to look at those and we'll get back to you. If you're accepted, you just get a congratulations letter. If you're not accepted, you get a letter that gives you some more feedback in terms of where we think you were weak and where we think you were strong, and usually encourage you to do it again. Like I said, you can apply as many times as you want until you get in. We've had a lot of people apply twice. We've had, I think the record is 5 times for somebody. After a year and a half, they finally got in. And he ended up being very successful when he was done. So if this is something you want to do, you don't have to, you know, like I said, thick skin. If we tell you no, then just double down and work harder and resubmit. After you've been accepted, there's a major thing is to stay in contact so that we always have current info to get a hold of you. And then depending on where we are with this great pandemic we've all been enjoying, hopefully we can be in person in the fall, in which case we'll actually have a physical meeting when you guys are starting a year from now. God, if we're still in this mess, then I don't know what we're going to do. So that's overview in terms of application. Let's go take a look at some more real quick before we run out of time. So it's important to, I think, you could look at, here's some short stories on graduates and kind of their stories of what they've done since graduating. I'm not going to get into these now, but I mean, feel free to take some time and go back and look at that. The other thing that's super fun that unfortunately the last couple of years have been kind of hard is the portfolio show. At the end of every year, we do a big show. Before the pandemic, it was actually physically on the 5th floor. This image right here is the critique area during one of the shows, which get crazy. We have a couple thousand people come through on between 2 nights. The way it's been structured previously, and again, this can all change because it's your show and you guys get to make the call and design and run the whole thing. But typically there's been a Wednesday night, which is professional people coming, looking for students and looking for people to hire. And then the second night is what we call friends and family, where we kind of let our hair down a little more. Everybody's a little bit more relaxed and we get to celebrate 2 years of hard work. We're getting kind of down on time here. So there's 10 years worth of shows here that you can look at. Let's take last year's real quickly, if this is going to work. Yeah. But do take a look at this stuff because you'll get a much better idea of the quality of work. Keep in mind, these are students that have graduated. So this is finished work. So it's not you coming in as a new student. These are people after 2 years going out. But everything's broken down by type of work and students, and you know, every page, everyone has a totally different kind of look and feel. So you can look at all this work. I think the thing is too, is by the last, since 2014, we've been calling our show Portfolio. And now we're getting called out. So we have 53 seconds left. So please look at the other portfolio sites. And like I said, if you do have other questions, I'm sorry for this format that it was not able to have more back and forth, but also there's an open house coming. So if you look under the apply section on the website, it'll show you the dates of that portfolio show, of that open house. Like I said, which is a more, we actually can have some dialogue back and forth, and we'll have alumni and we'll have current students and we'll have more faculty there as well. So if indeed this was remotely interesting to you, I'm sorry if I was boring, join us for the info session and hopefully I'll see your faces and we can say hello and we'll get to work together someday. Thanks for coming and good luck with all this. I know it's brand new for everyone.
Wonderful.